This is top 5 sci-fi, take 2.
Take 2.
We rarely have to take twos. So unprofessional of us. Welcome back to HM and Big E. Today we're starting something new and we're very excited about it. Today we are going to talk about our top 5. And in this episode we're talking about our top 5 sci-fi movies of all time.
Of all eternity.
It's a little exaggerated, but this is sci-fi is obviously very near and dear to our hearts.
Yes, of course.
And so this is our top 5 lists. Before we dive right into it, we do want to establish kind of what our definition of best is, kind of what we were thinking about. And so the 3 criteria, I think, well, that we decided on after I made my list, but what are the 3 criteria?
Well, I think number 1, it's a very deeply personal choice. So personal enjoyment obviously is one. Like
Yes.
there's some movies that are very critically acclaimed, but you just don't want to watch it, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It's a slog. It's not that interesting to you.
Yeah.
Number 2, I think, is general rewatchability.
Yeah.
As in,
That's very high for me.
that's very high. As in, probably there's a lot of stuff that's in the movie that you love about the movie. There's a lot of things that you didn't pick up the first time.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's also like another gauge I have for it is like, if you're on an airplane and like the guy in front of you is watching it, like, oh, I'm going to keep watching that, or I'm going to turn that on
that's a good way of
myself.
putting it on.
Yeah.
I'm saying it. Yeah, I think the third category is maybe what we call landmark, iconic type of movies.
Mm-hmm.
That there are movies that a lot of movies are based off of, right? Because they were the first to do it, or they did it the best.
Yeah, game changers.
Game-changing type of movies.
Yeah.
I think that sort of factors in because that's just generally a lot of these top 100 lists. They always have that, right? And so there are probably on the internet like millions of these top 5, top 10, top 100 lists, and so some of the movies that we'll mention are definitely going to be on those lists.
Yeah,
Or
and
maybe
it's
not
such
for
a
you.
broad category. It's such a broad category of general sci-fi. We're getting into there's going to be problems here. But I think for future ones we'll kind of get a lot more specific. Maybe kind of focus it and narrow it down, to kind of make it more selectable and interesting.
That's right. I mean, sci-fi is such a big category. You could have sci-fi comedy,
Right.
horror,
Action,
fantasy.
It's
all there. So it is really hard to gauge, in some ways.
But it's good that we're establishing those 3 kind of parameters, so keep those in mind when we're sharing our list. Very much so the personal preference one, all right? These are our personal preferences. They're not objective. We may differ.
Do you have any honorable mentions, or are we going to jump right in?
Before we get to honorable mentions, which I think we should get into, how many of our official top 5 do you think we're going to cross over?
1.
I think
0.
2.
Okay.
I think
all right.
2.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, I have a few honorable mentions.
Okay.
Let's jump right into it. So honorable mention number 1, kind of a bit more. It was a very popular movie, but I think it probably doesn't make too many lists very high. But it was close to high on my list. Was Minority Report.
The fact that you prevent it from happening doesn't change the fact that it was going to happen.
The system can't be wrong.
You say something, Chief?
No.
Don't run.
You don't have to chase me.
From 20th Century Fox
He set me up. He set me up.
and DreamWorks Pictures.
Who's the victim? I've never heard of him, but I'm supposed to kill him in less than 36 hours.
It is on my honorable mention list as well.
Okay, yeah. It's a great movie.
Great movie. I think Tom Cruise at his best.
I think one of his best movies. Yeah, the concept is kind of broad enough and big enough for people to understand, but interesting and sci-fi enough that there's a lot that they can unravel, and they do a really good job in the movie.
It's an excellent movie, a great ending. I think people should watch it.
Okay, what's another honorable mention you have?
I have Arrival.
Oh, fantastic! Yes, I don't have that on my short list, but I should. Yeah.
What happens now?
They arrive.
They need to see me.
Dr. Banks? Are you insane?
Now that's a proper introduction.
More objects have landed around the world.
An amazing movie that, Denis Villeneuve.
Yep. Denis Villeneuve.
Villeneuve. Terrible names. Sorry, Denny, you're a fellow Canadian.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. Yeah, obviously a great movie with really great cinematography,
Yep.
good acting.
The reason that I actually took that off my list is like, it's beautiful to look at. I think if it just came on, I wouldn't. The rewatchability is not there for me. The
That's
first time
right.
enjoyment is very good.
That's right. Maybe even a second time. But I
Yeah.
know what you mean. It's not the most fast-paced kind of action movie that you'd be like, oh, just
Right,
I'm
right.
just gonna watch.
Okay. Oh man, we're gonna take so long with these. Another one similar to Minority Report I have is Inception.
We create the world of the dream. We bring the subject into that dream, and they fill it with their secrets.
Then you break in and steal it.
Well, it's not strictly speaking legal.
Watch the movie, I guess, but that's more of the same thing with Minority Report in terms of it was a simple concept, a new simple concept that they were able to explain very well. I don't think the movie was like incredible, but I thought as a sci-fi concept that they took, they did that pretty well.
Yep.
Next, what do you have?
I have Fifth Element.
I have Fifth Element too.
Fifth Element.
Luc Besson, yep, go ahead.
Yeah, very iconic. Obviously, Bruce Willis at his peak. A lot of the stuff in generally when you think of sci-fi, you're going to think of this movie where there's spaceships,
Yeah,
there's
this is very
flying
sci-fi.
taxis,
Yeah.
there's futuristic guns. So he's in a new world. Really good movie. I definitely think you should watch it.
Yeah, go back and watch it. It's weird,
It's weird, yeah.
but it's good sci-fi weird. Yeah.
Yeah, good sci-fi weird.
I have one last one which will upset some people.
Okay.
It's Back to the Future is on my honorable.
It
mentions.
is on
Okay, good.
my honorable list as
There
well.
you go.
What's this? What's this?
There you go.
It's a great, fantastic movie.
I didn't watch the second or third because I thought the first one was just kind of an isolated, like it's good enough on its own. I didn't feel like the story needed to continue. And
Two
the
and three
reviews were
are okay,
That's
but
right.
definitely number one is iconic.
Very
Robert
worth watching.
Zemeckis.
Very
Everything about this movie works.
Yes.
I don't think there's like a wasted scene. It's funny. It's hilarious. It's got so much cultural reference today and still endures the test of time.
It does. It does. More so than I think our other honorable mentions.
That's
Back to the
right.
Future is more kind of iconic. That third iconic landmark status.
Right.
All right. Those are all my honorable mentions. What else do you have? You have a long honorable mention list?
I got quite a few, but
Okay.
I'll just rattle through them.
Sure.
I think on the more independent movie side, there's Moon.
Okay.
Moon's,
Yeah,
that makes some list too.
I didn't watch that.
Very short. You should watch it. It's a good, compact little story about literally one man, Sam Rockwell, and
Yep.
he's just in this movie. And,
Okay.
Predestination is another one.
Okay.
Ethan Hawke.
Yep.
Same type of thing. It's basically one guy doing the whole thing. I have Serenity. Mainly not because of the movie, but because the series is very beloved, and the movie sort of
The movie's
it caps it off.
It's an
And it was,
epilogue,
if you look
sort
at the
of,
story,
finish.
Firefly was canceled after 13 episodes, but it was a fantastic series.
Watch Firefly.
Yeah,
Watch Firefly.
amazing series. And the movie is sort of a finale, so to speak.
yeah.
So I kind of classified there.
Right.
I have also, this might surprise people, Aliens on that list.
Yep. That does surprise people.
That will surprise people, but obviously this is easily a top 10 type of movie, but for me it didn't make the top 5, so to speak. And what else do I have? Well, you might be surprised here. I don't know, Jurassic Park.
Okay.
Another top 10 type of movie, but did not make my top 5. So I'll probably leave it there, but those are some honorable mentions.
Okay. So with that, let's dive right in. Top 5. Number 5. You want to kick it off, or you?
You kick it off.
I'm kicking it off with controversy.
Oh no.
My number 5 top sci-fi movie of all time is Edge of Tomorrow.
You see, this isn't the first time. And we've had this
Find me
conversation.
when you wake up.
You knew this was coming.
I knew it was your top 5 somewhere.
Yeah, and
it is
compared to the other 4, there's no way.
Okay.
And actually, I mean, even compared, for a lot of people, I think compared to even our honorable mentions, there's no way it kind of goes above them. But for me, it really does. I don't know what it is about it. I think maybe because, I play a lot of video games, and this movie...
It is a video game.
It is a video game kind of movie. It's a guy with infinite lives. He just wakes up and he's just trying to get that perfect run. I really, really like this movie. It's based on a Japanese manga.
Yep.
All You Need Is Kill, I think, something like that. They changed the ending for the movie, and the ending is probably the only weak part of the movie for me. But everything between explaining how the powers work, experiencing how his powers go with him.
His character growth.
His character growth is huge, but I also feel, in a lot of these, Groundhog Day type movies where you're reliving the same day type of thing, or kind of how they are able to just show enough of to show that they're living the same day, but then show you something different and show you something new, and then how they know when to change that. The pacing of this movie in terms of that storytelling is so good.
Yeah, the editing, the pacing, the characters. I really like the Tom Cruise arc, because normally he's playing this confident guy, but he's playing kind of a really not confident person to start of this movie.
Kind of like a weasel. And he's thrown into it. And
he's
panicking, and
it's one of Tom Cruise's best movies. Yep. I would say so. And Emily Blunt's good in it.
I love Emily Blunt in it. Yeah, she's really, really good in it.
The imagery is really iconic. I wish it was on more people's top 100, top 50 lists.
I think it's... I think it should be more on top people's... Maybe not on everyone's top 5. I think it should be on everyone's top...
20.
Sure. Yeah, definitely top 20.
Yeah.
A really good movie. Check it out if you haven't seen it. Edge of Tomorrow.
If you like that, I think you should watch A Boss Level.
Okay.
Which is Frank Grillo. He's like an action stunt guy. Yeah. Michelle Yeoh, Mel Gibson. Okay. It's the same concept.
Oh, okay.
With this, what do you call it? Rogue. What's that style of game when you keep playing?
Roguelike. Yeah.
Roguelike. Yeah. Boss level.
Okay, boss level. All right, so that's my number 5. Your number 5 top sci-fi movie of all time
is Blade Runner 2049.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. I was about to.
Okay. A lot of my top 5 you're going to realize are spoiler or sequels, because Blade Runner. This is sort of a cheap way of saying Blade Runner, Runner 2049 are kind of together.
Yeah.
I just thought this movie was excellent in every way. Again, Denis Villeneuve. He takes the original and expands the universe, and he does in such a great way in all aspects. The look of it, the feel of it, the character growth. Ryan Gosling's good. Batista's good in it. There's so many good things about this movie. I really like Blade Runner. Is a kind of a thinking man sci-fi. Basically, the concept is what it really means to be human. Mm-hmm. I remember leaving a theater, and all these young people that were really hyped about this movie were so confused and bored, because it's really a thinking man sci-fi. Blade Runner, the original, makes a lot of top 5 lists.
And that's why, I'm sure there's people of our 40 watchers that are upset that I was going to make a snoring noise for Blade Runner. The caveat for that is because I watched that when I was 15, and I was expecting Star Wars.
And I didn't get it at first.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you watch Blade Runner, most people will say, I don't know what this is about, because it's very subtle. Ridley Scott's style in this movie is, it doesn't, a lot of action-y stuff, doesn't have any explosions, but the world that he built, this film noir, dark kind of gritty underworld, and he throws in cyberpunk in there. He throws in a lot of really iconic stuff. So
the original is something I intend to go back and revisit at some point.
It definitely is landmark kind of movie.
But 2049, you're saying, is better.
I think it's better because it takes it and it modernizes it. It has better graphics. Sure. It expands the lore. And Harrison Ford's in it too. And it's a good example of having an old star play the proper role in the new movie.
Right.
And
legacy sequels.
He's not, and I really like the final climactic thing is not this huge, enormous, battle of a million people, but rather a self-contained little fight. So Blade Runner 2049, check it out. Excellent movie.
So, I mean, Arrival, Denis Villeneuve was on your honorable mention.
Yeah.
Blade Runner 2049 is here. I wonder if Dune will make either of our lists. But Dune is also very recent, so I don't know. But that's the latest Denis Villeneuve. Okay, number 4. Let's jump to number 4. My number 4 is one of your honorable mentions.
Okay.
It is Jurassic Park.
Jurassic World.
No.
Boy, do I hate being right all the time.
Dominion. Or whatever the latest one. Is that Fallen King?
No, that's the second one.
Okay.
Dominion is the newest one coming out, which will be in June.
Which has a lot of these old characters back. Legacy sequel again.
Yes, which is what I'm worried about.
I'm super worried about it. But the original, you can go back to it today, and it came out in 93.
93, yeah.
1993. You can go back to this, 30-year-old movie nearly, and the CGI still holds up pretty well because they're very smart about it. But this was the first movie for a lot of people where they saw CGI and it didn't look CGI.
It was so groundbreaking.
So convincing that, oh yeah, that's just a dinosaur. But yeah, the action, the pacing, the characters, the character growth for all of the characters were so good.
Yeah, and the kids were not. Not annoying.
Well, they were kind of partly meant to be a little bit annoying,
right?
And they played that part really, really well.
It's got horror, it's got comedy.
Yeah.
It's got adventure. I like the adventure in it and the little moments.
Right.
Where these new Jurassic Park, the problem is like everything is like boom, 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 boom. But this one is a little bit slower. There are a lot of.
Yeah, there are ups and downs as it should be in terms of the pacing, not just everything is max all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and a fantastic movie. I remember watching it in theater. My sister was super scared.
Yeah.
Because it does have that horror element.
Definitely. Definitely.
The raptors and the T-Rex.
The T-Rex, yeah, definitely.
But yeah, of course, Jurassic Park, amazing.
This is one that I don't think too many people would argue with.
No, definitely not.
Jurassic Park. If you haven't seen the original Jurassic Park and you've only seen Jurassic World, do go back and watch it. It's aged very, very well. It's an excellent, excellent landmark movie.
Especially if you're going to watch Dominion.
Just to get some context of the characters.
The three main characters in this movie.
Right.
It's a great movie.
I'm surprised they didn't bring the kids back at some point, eh?
They might. It might be a cameo.
Right.
But
they just introduced that other girl in the last one, remember?
Yes.
The clone girl? I don't know. But anyway.
Not really, actually. But I remember, obviously, the three characters, Jeff Goldblum's character, Lord Dern's, and Sam Neill's character. They're all iconic. And, Jurassic Park, obviously, now is like, they have rides, they have a lot, new movies. It's still iconic to this day.
Definitely. And that soundtrack. I mean, actually, so starting from I'm missing another one. But the soundtrack for this is, you can just play those couple of notes.
John Williams,
fantastic. Again, right when it was at its prime. But Jurassic Park is my number 4. Highly, highly recommend.
I actually would like to have side note that some of these movies that do make top 10 lists, the soundtrack is very important.
So important.
It's so iconic.
Yes.
You hit the first 3 notes, this is going to be a great movie or whatever.
And actually, I was reading something about, top soundtracks, and there was some guy who said one of the top soundtracks for, and again, it's a horror movie, but it's fiction. I guess it's not science fiction. But Jaws, obviously, super iconic theme that really made the movie. The movie would be missing so much without that soundtrack. Anyway, soundtrack tangent. I know we have soundtrack fans out there, but Jurassic Park theme, fantastic. Number 4. What's your number 4?
RoboCop.
Ah!
Drop the gun. You are under arrest. Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.
A very iconic soundtrack as well.
Top 5.
I really love RoboCop. I when I watched it as a kid, it blew me away.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was very violent, so I had to sneak it in.
Yeah, how old were you when you watched it?
Probably like 8, 9.
Wasn't this R-rated?
Of course.
Yeah, okay.
They had blood packs and everything.
Yes.
RoboCop is misunderstood by quite a few people. People, that's a stupid movie about a robotic cop, but it really is a story about a man who learns to be human again, right? And though that's the failure of this new RoboCop that came out a few years ago, that really took everything that RoboCop was about and destroyed it. But the original RoboCop it's a dystopian type of movie about corporate greed. It's a satire. Paul Verhoeven, who's the director, is a German guy. He came in and he used over the top violence and satire and comedy to get his point across. So when you first watch it, you'll kind of be surprised if you've never seen it before. Like, oh, I thought it was just a straightforward action movie, but it has a lot of humanity in it. It has a lot of grit in it. It really feels like you feel for this guy who was basically executed to be resurrected as this machine to be used by a corporation. And it really talks about, this idea that what it means to be human. Can I regain my humanity? So I would say this movie is so compact in terms of there's not a shot wasted. It doesn't do these long things. It, pandering shots. It really is very efficient storytelling.
As movie reviewing YouTubers or burgeoning wannabe YouTubers, there is a lot in my movie catalog history that I have holes in, and RoboCop is definitely one of them. I still have not seen. I have seen RoboCop 2.
No, that's not.
Which is significantly worse, I think.
RoboCop 3 is a joke. It's again one of those things where they ruin it. But RoboCop 1. If you look at a lot of lists, it does make it, in terms of top 50, top 25, maybe not top 10. Yeah. But for me, watching it as a kid, it was an amazing movie.
Sure. All right. That's number 4. Number 3. My number 3 was another of your honorable mentions.
Yep.
It is Aliens.
6.
Can't be. That's inside the room.
It's reading right, man. Look. Well, you're not reading it right. 5 meters, man. 4. What the hell?
Okay.
And I'm sort of cheating a little bit because I want to include Alien.
No, but that's what I'm cheating too with Blade Runner, right?
Yeah. And so Aliens, I think there is an element of that. I watched it as a child, probably before I was supposed to. And, right, and it was just kind of like those. It was so shocking and so gripping and like that horror element, but it was done so well. And even that first, Alien 1, they're very different movies, even though they're kind of, it's a sequel.
Ridley Scott, James
Cameron.
Very two...
The Ridley Scott one was very atmospheric.
Slower.
Much slower, but still very, very engaging and very gripping and like so tense, right? Whereas the James Cameron Aliens, the sequel was a lot more action heavy, but there was still so much good character. James Cameron does... when he does these big budget things, he's still very good at focusing on character growth and character development.
Right, like Avatar. Your favorite movie of all time. Number 1.
The next one just got a title.
That's right, Way of the Water.
Way of the Water. We'll have a separate video to talk about that. I honestly don't know who cares about Avatar.
It definitely is not making any top 10 lists.
Definitely not. Even the original Avatar was very groundbreaking because of the 3D CG and people.
And it was a theater experience.
Yes. I think the 7 Avatar sequels coming out will be terrible. No. So anyway, Aliens, again, in terms of iconic landmark film imagery that will test of time, right? The her with the alien and the little mouth coming out right in her face,
right?
And her in the mech suit at the end and.
You don't like horror, but Aliens has quite a bit of horror in it. It is a horror franchise.
Yes.
If you think about it, no one can hear you scream in space.
Correct.
And I think Aliens it has all the beats of like what makes a good summer blockbuster, right? You got these character Bill Paxton's game over, man, game over. And you got all these different rogue characters that are gonna die, right? Mm-hmm. And you have probably one of the first. Ridley Scott's known for this, but the first female action leads.
Yes.
Ellen Ripley.
Yes, and she does an amazing job. Obviously, I'm sorry, her name.
Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver. Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you for watching, Sigourney. She did a fantastic job, and they don't make a big deal out of it. that she's a woman and she can do it. She just does it, and she is so convincing. And obviously, they introduced that side of Newt and having to take care of that child. And but I thought this was such a good movie, gripping and engaging. The second one. For sure. Anytime if I saw it on a plane, I would definitely just kind of ignore what I have on my screen and just kind of look at that person's screen.
Yeah, there's so many good scenes in this movie.
Yeah.
It definitely is, Alien and Aliens, and then let's discount the rest.
All of the rest.
Are two amazing
that
movies.
world building, from the first two, of the character design of the aliens, that's another thing too, right? Just that iconic silhouette even. The face huggers, the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. I remember these things, even though I haven't seen this movie in a while, because they're iconic. And so this is a really, really good movie.
Trivia: do you know the cat's name?
No.
Jonesy.
Oh, Jonesy. Yes. Very good. Very good. I don't own a cat, so I don't want to upset cat owners. So I did not remember Jonesy, but yes, that is correct. Okay, that is my number 3, Aliens. Definitely worth a watch. The first one may be slower and may not be everyone's cup of tea, because if you're expecting to go in and seeing from Aliens 3 and onward, if you're expecting to see the alien in the first one, really don't see the alien until the very, very end.
But that was sort of the point.
That was so the point. You just see glimpses, you see shadows, you see movement, and there's so many of these shots. It reminds me of when we talked about the new Batman. Those shots of just dark corridors, and your imagination is, and they play it up, they make you imagine that he's there. That's the same thing in this alien, in the dark, where the chains are hanging, and they just move a little bit, and it's is it there? And it makes you think that too.
And that is sort of the whole concept of, in the 80s and 90s, a lot of, when they just were developing CGI.
Yeah.
Art from adversity
right
really made a lot of these movies good, because you can't animate this alien running around the walls and stuff without making it look bad. So they're throwing they're throwing a lot of this little these little hidden moments, but I think that was what made these movies great.
So I look at my list before we jump back to yours.
Yeah.
And in terms of landmark, iconic, people copying, 4 of mine have sequels. Edge of Tomorrow is my only one that doesn't have a remake or a sequel of any sort.
I would say 4 of mine are sequels.
Okay, so number 3 for me was Aliens with a backdoor alien, the first one, but not any of the other ones. Your number 3?
It has to be Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Dun-dun, dun-dun.
Yes.
Dun-dun, dun-dun.
Hey!
Get down.
Dun-dun-dun. Yeah. Terminator 2 Judgment Day, when I first watched it, blew me away, obviously. The CGI was, at the time, so unique, and, Industrial and Light and Magic were showing all their kind of creative tools. This is a movie that really, another James Cameron movie, like Aliens, that took the original and made it even better.
Yes.
Right?
The T-1000 was terrifying.
He's terrifying. It was such smart casting.
Yes.
Where they said, how do we take the Arnold character, and they repositioned him. They swerved the audience where he's the protector, he's a good guy. And they had a good backstory to do it. Linda Hamilton's amazing in this movie. Fantastic. Where she turns it from a scared mother to this warrior. The T-1000 Robert Patrick.
Oh.
Casting him as a smaller guy was really interesting.
Yep.
They could have casted an even bigger guy.
Yeah.
But they casted a smaller guy who's more powerful.
That's right.
Right? And this whole movie is so good because it talks about, again, the core of science fiction is what does it really mean to be human, right? And the growth of a machine that could turn into more than a machine.
Right.
So, yeah, and of course it has James Cameron beats, all the good action stuff, practical effects,
great soundtrack.
Great soundtrack, right? Yeah. So many scenes are iconic in this movie.
Definitely.
Right? And it even uses comedy, where the first Terminator had a little bit less of that. But they really played up the comedy with Arnold acting as a Terminator. So, great movie. Every time I see this I kind of tune it.
For sure. And again, as another example of my odd kind of immigrant movie watching experience. I watched T2 before I watched T1.
I did as well.
And so it was just a little confusing. I was like, wait, he wasn't he the... And so, but yeah, T2 blew me away as a kid watching it as well. And for sure now, if you watched it, it holds up so well. And I think we're going to just talk about that for all of our lists, right? That's why they're top lists. They're enduring, right? There's something about them that it doesn't matter that they were made.
The action with James Cameron is much more paced and slower,
right.
and it lets the scenes linger.
Yeah.
Versus like the new stuff today, it would just be like, right. and then that's and you're like, what would even happen? I don't even know, right? So there's so many scenes where like he's walking out after shooting all the cops on their knees, and it's just smoke. And just walking out. And the music's playing.
To your point, I think there's definitely that art from adversity thing again here, right? They don't have, let's just CG in a whole bunch of explosions and
that's right,
glass shattering. It was all practical, or it was like, oh well, you know what? Let's make it the result of what happened, and it's just smoke. And there's so much. All the action is driven a lot by kind of the characters, and the action means something.
Yeah,
it's not action for action's sake. There is.
Sadly, T2 and Aliens should have just ended there. Unfortunately, the sequels that
the legacy continues.
The legacy continues where they're trying to get a 7-year-old Arnold back in the Terminator type of role. A lot of these things don't work.
What was the latest Aliens franchise entry?
Alien Covenant.
I don't remember that.
Prometheus and then Covenant.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Both not great.
No.
Even though Ridley Scott, I think, returned as a producer, or did he direct it? But it was just, what?
And then, that entire middle gap. Aliens 3 was terrible. AVP.
AVP had some glimmering hope.
And then AVP 2.
Oh my gosh. Requiem.
Right.
No, but Terminator, same thing. Dark Fate was just absolutely terrible.
Well, a lot of the middle ones were terrible.
Yeah, but they were like, Dark Fate's going to be,
the return.
They're going to jump all that, miss all that stuff. But Terminator 2, I think it came out in 1992. Fantastic movie. Good ending. Talking about, can you choose your fate, right? Basically, this concept. Yeah.
Number 2.
Okay.
My number 2 movie, and this is, so far we haven't had any crossover.
No.
I think my number 2 and my number 1 are crossovers.
Yeah.
My number 2 top sci-fi movie of all time is The Matrix.
It was my honorable mention.
Oh.
This is a sparring program, similar to the programmed reality of The Matrix. It has the same basic rules like gravity. What you must learn is that these rules are no different than the rules of a computer system. Some of them can be bent. Others can be broken. Understand? Then hit me, if you can.
But I didn't say it because I knew that it'd probably be your top 10. I was considering top 5, but...
Yeah, I think for anyone, it would be on so many people's just make the cuts or shortlist for sure to be consideration for top 5 if you were making your top 5. Right. I would be shocked if The Matrix was not part of your top 5.
What can you say?
What can you say? The action is fantastic. The concept, like there was so... I really love these kind of simple, you can explain it in a sentence kind of sci-fi concepts that they elaborate and think well, right? Is reality real? How do we experience things, right? What if, it was all a computer simulation, right? And they take that, and the Wachowskis, I remember after the movie came out, I was talking to someone about it, and so again, this was how iconic the movie is. I remember a conversation about the movie from 20 years ago. Someone was saying, like, how do they just know that what looks cool? Like, everything looks so cool, right? Morpheus' sunglasses that don't have the thing, the long black trench coats, bullet time, which was invented, groundbreaking, but it was invented because they didn't have money. They didn't have money to do it, and then so they just, you know what? We have a whole bunch of cameras. Let's just set them up in a row, and then we'll, take videos of all of them, and then that way we can move along the cameras. Brilliant mashup of kind of like animation and cinema, like movie making all at once. So groundbreaking. Let's not talk about 2 and 3 and 4 and
4, definitely don't talk about 4. Matrix hit at a time when people were talking about postmodernism and is there a meta narrative out there, right? And maybe everybody experiences reality differently.
Right.
And I remember watching it, besides the clothing and the bullet time, it's just a well executed story.
Very.
A really good executed story because it's a good example of when you're trying to do a concept that makes you dig deeper, you got to be able to explain it in the universe in an efficient way to the audience.
Yes.
Right? And Neo is a perfect kind of protagonist where he's trying to figure this out. And then Morpheus, Trinity, all these people are throwing lines at him. And then the audience is saying, oh, okay, okay, I get how the Matrix works. Remember that one line? It's like, if you die, the mind can't exist without...
Yeah.
The body can't exist without the mind.
Yep.
I even think like that one scene where the Cypher is eating that steak.
Yes, iconic.
So iconic. He's just like, you know what?
Yeah,
I just don't care.
Ignorance is bliss.
Right? I don't care.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
So he's like, make me a movie star.
Yeah.
Right? That little meta line in there.
Yeah.
The way it ends, but it's beyond that. Like the whole idea of him being able to choose your fate. Whether you are truly the one because some machine told you you were, or you can do it. And man, it's such a good movie. It's so rewatchable. Some of the graphics now could be updated, but again, I mean, everything about this movie screams.
Yeah, all the practical stuff obviously holds up really well, but some of the CGs. But yeah, I remember after this movie came out and we lived through it that there was so much like talk about like philosophy and kind of that the philosophy of the Matrix and just kind of looking at it through different lenses because it kind of opened that question for a lot of people of kind of searching a little bit deeper into like, oh, like why am I here? Like, is this all real and that kind of stuff? And
it's interesting because it was sort of the beginning of the internet, right?
Yes, and
that's different than if a child watches the Matrix now because they'll be like, yeah, so what? Yeah. I mean, Keanu Reeves had an interview where he was explaining to a kid about the Matrix, and the kid's like, yeah. They kind of get it, but for our generation, it was really quite interesting, like this idea that you could have an avatar in cyberspace, sort of thing. So. Matrix on every level hits,
and I think it inspired so much stuff. There were so many movies afterwards that tried to do their own version of Bullet Time. They were all terrible, but I mean, even obviously the movie that I loved recently, Everything Ever All at Once, owes so much inspiration to the Matrix. And again, it's just the impact on sci-fi and movie making in general. Matrix easily number 2 for me. Number 2, Matrix. You're number 2.
This is hard. I was between my number 1 and 2. But I just gave the number 2 to Star Trek 2. The Wrath of Khan.
Ah, Kirk, my old friend. Do you know the Klingon proverb that tells us revenge is a dish that is best served cold? It is very cold in space.
Again, to me, the best of the best in terms of the Star Trek movies.
I don't disagree with you on that.
That's not a great list sometimes. You think about it.
But that's what I mean. But whether the best of the Star Trek movies makes an overall top 2, like the second best sci-fi of all time.
But, again, this is a very much of a personal enjoyment thing. Where when I was watching it, that was really one of the first Star Trek things I ever saw with my father.
Okay.
And this movie, the reason I like it so much is...
Not a great example of good fatherhood in the movie.
No. But the reason why I like this movie so much is because it took Star Trek in a new direction. I mean, Nicholas Meyer, who is not a well-known director, he had the concept of making Starfleet a Navy kind of feel to it, and everything became much less cowboy-y and became a military group. But at its core, the movie is really about friendship and life and death. And I'm trying to think through the entire movie. It's so many good things about this movie. Like the acting is top notch from Ricardo Montalban, Khan.
Yep.
He works out in this movie, and they always joke it's like the chest of Khan because he's got this super well-defined chest. But he does a great job coming back as a villain, Khan. Him and William Shatner spent 0 time together. Did you know that?
Yes.
They were just talking through screens. Yep. But the movie really, everything about it is a slowed down version of the Star Trek we see today. The battle between the Reliant and the Enterprise is like a Navy warship. It's
Yes.
like a submarine battle where
Right,
it's
right.
slow and there are consequences.
Yes. Not like new Star Trek.
Not like new Star Trek. So, at its core, and of course, spoiler alert, when it was released, it was controversial because Spock dies. And that whole scene where they're touching the glass and him sacrificing himself for the good of the ship. People were coming out of the theater crying and denying that this was true, right? At the time.
Yes. I think the back end of it was because Leonard Nimoy kind of wanted out, right?
I think so, but they did it in a really good way. They
Yeah.
actually paved the way for his return at the very end with the Genesis planet. But it was there's so many good things about this movie. It's about really at its core, it's about wrestling. Jim Kirk wrestling with life. He's getting older
with mortality.
Mortality, and him basically being this cowboy captain doing everything, and he's getting older, and he doesn't believe in the no win scenario.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
He cheats himself out of death, and he realizes at the end of this movie he can't do it.
Yeah. You can't keep doing that.
You can't keep doing it, and so everything about this movie, I love about this movie.
And that is a good reminder of our number one personal preference. I don't think this would make too many people's top 10 even.
Yeah.
But it is a good movie.
It would make definitely top. I've seen it on many top 20, 50 lists.
Top 50 for sure. I would agree.
Right?
I would agree.
But it is a very personal thing.
Yeah.
I still love this movie. The soundtrack of the movie is really good with James Horner. The effects are really good. The Enterprise looks amazing.
So, given everything you've said about your list and everything I've said about my list, I think this is our one crossover.
It has to be.
It really has to be. And so our number, we don't know each other's lists, obviously, the way we've talked about it, but it is. I'm making it much more general.
Should we say it at the same time?
Okay, the specific movie. All right,
yeah.
It's the Empire Strikes
Back,
obviously.
The Force is with you, young Skywalker. But you are not a Jedi yet.
But for me, also, it is A New Hope and Return of the Jedi. I'm putting the entire original trilogy.
As you can see from my top 5,
you're
all
cheating.
mine are sequels. Yeah, they're a little bit cheating, but because the sequels on these top 5 are actually better, I think, than the original, or build off the original.
Yes. I remember when I first watched the original Star Wars trilogy, I thought this was such a boring movie. I was like, wait, where's the big battle? I was quite young when I watched it, but I was like, where's the big battle? They destroyed the Death Star in the first one. What's it? Wait, they're just kind of talking and like that tiny lightsaber fight was it? But it took me obviously rewatching it when I was older, to understand the complexity of the emotions there and right, the character, the depth there, so much better. And I was like, wait, that's the end? They're just standing at a window and they lost and what?
Yeah, you are a super critic, because when I watched it, I thought this movie, it was amazing from start to end. It's one of the most rewatchable movies I've ever watched, because everything about this movie works. I don't think there's a wasted scene. I don't think there's a wasted character. Mm-hmm. Everybody's positioned well. The music is so iconic with the Imperial March. Yeah.
Yes.
I really, really, really love the first hour of this movie, where they establish right from the beginning, in a very simple shot, that the rebels they're hiding.
Yeah,
and
they're on the back foot. Yeah,
they're desperate.
Yeah,
and they chose Hoth, an ice planet, and I thought that was really cool. And if you look back at the behind the scenes footage, they just filmed it in real locations, and it was snowstorms, and they threw Mark Hamill outside and just told him to crawl. But I really love the first 10, not 1 hour of this movie where they're on the run.
Yep.
And that scene when they have to get on the Falcon and avoid the Imperial Star Destroyers.
The Rebel base was called
Echo
Base, yeah. I think Echo Base.
But yeah, it was so good. Just setting up the fact that Han Solo had to rescue Luke for a second time, right? Han Solo and the princess are fighting. Darth Vader is desperately hunting for these rebels. And I like that they added so much to even Darth Vader's character.
Yes.
He starts strangling people.
Yep.
They show a little bit of the back of his head, just a little bit to tease you. So many good things.
I like how they made the rebels kind of, again, feel very like this is a ragtag group.
That's right.
Like the snowspeeders obviously can't take down an AT-AT, but they have to use ingenuity and cleverness to use the tow cables and stuff.
That's right. I like how people die in the beginning of this movie, and so this it sets it up in a very 3-part structure, right? Hoth, Dagobah, Bespin.
Yeah,
I can just say it right off the bat because the names work, and then of course, there's so much stuff that happens in each of those scenes that are iconic.
Super iconic. Luke in the cave.
Luke in the cave. Luke and Yoda. Finding out Yoda is a litda guy.
Yep.
He speaks in a weird way,
Yep.
He doesn't carry a lightsaber.
Meeting Lando.
Meeting Lando Calrissian.
Yoda does have a lightsaber.
I know, but they don't. He didn't whip it out
and start twirling around. He didn't. That wasn't part of it. No.
No, but you really felt the weight of this situation.
Yes.
Versus the sequel trilogy, where you don't feel anything at all. Okay, let's not talk about that. But this is everything good about science fiction, everything good about filmmaking, everything good about Star Wars.
Yes, and I completely agree with you that objectively, this movie is better than A New Hope. In terms of it took everything established there and made everything better. But A New Hope has more of that iconic groundbreaking. And we talked about this in our other review, I forget which one, about how it just changed the game completely.
Of course.
A New Hope. And
well, of course we're going to go into the, behind the scenes, but it didn't expect to make that money.
I know.
But then people started raving about it.
Word of mouth.
And people were lining up, and all the toys were sold out. If you have an original Kenner set, it's worth a lot of money.
You can send it to us. We'll.
But Empire just works on every level, and of course you can't not talk about the end of Empire. The big reveal.
Yes.
Huge twist, and I don't know before, but it was one of the movies where it's set up for the finale because that scene, the very end of that movie leaves with Lando and Chewbacca flying off in the Falcon. And then it's like, boom, that's it.
It just ends, yeah.
And then you're like, okay, I have to wait 3 years for Return of the Jedi. Right?
Which, as a kid, I loved Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
that was my favorite of the three.
What, because you had the Ewoks?
No, not because of the Ewoks. I thought the end battle was very, very epic and very, it managed
I know what you mean. Because it's a happy ending.
Yeah,
he has his green lightsaber, he's going at it. Empire is the darker of the movies.
Yes,
and
yes.
It explores themes about loss and all these kind of darker themes. So obviously, and it gets his arm chopped off, and I mean, obviously these are that's why. But now you watch it as an adult, it's still
fantastic.
Fantastic.
If you have only seen the sequel trilogy, definitely go back and watch the original trilogy.
Heck, even watch the prequels.
When you go back and watch it, I mean, it's a movie from now, 50 years ago? 50 years ago, right?
Which one?
A New Hope, or A New Hope Empire, like the original.
77.
77, okay.
45
years ago. It'll look grainy, and it'll, even the Blu-ray versions or whatever, the 4K versions, look grainy and it'll look like an old movie. But if you can get past that, the story it tells is timeless.
Just like Ben-Hur.
If this movie was like Ben-Hur, it would just constantly be cutting away to Lobot.
But even the fact that we know Lobot's name,
yes,
shows how iconic this movie is.
For sure. It introduced Boba Fett.
Boba Fett in the proper way, not like this new way. It was just enough Boba Fett.
It introduced the Emperor, right?
Emperor.
Yep.
who was an old lady in makeup apparently.
Yes. Oh, I don't know if it was an old lady. I knew it was
Something like
else.
that, where then they replaced him in the new versions,
with
right?
Ian, of course. Yeah.
But it just expanded the universe greatly. So
Empire
so good, yeah. Top line.
I'm not surprised that we crossed over on that, and I'm not surprised we both have that as our number one top sci-fi movie of all time. I think that's it for us. This episode is running a bit long. Let us know what it would be on your top 5 list in the comments. Let us know what you think of our top 5. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you love Edge of Tomorrow?
It's a good movie.
It is a good movie. And so that's it. So until next episode, do keep watching things.
Like and subscribe to our channel. Thanks so much.
Thanks.